So continuing from the last video on the Tsuba, I just wanted to show you a little bit further down the road there once you've made some progress on it, and show you how some of those different elements I was talking about might look, so that you can kind of gauge your design process for yourself. And just to take a look at this, if you remember, my theme for this katana is a white tiger, and I've really tried to roll that into my Tsuba as well, as I mentioned. And you can just see some of the different elements that I've used. I've used relief carving over here. I was trying to carve a tiger's face, and then on this side I've used piercing to kind of give it an open look to it, and kind of reduce the bulky look of just a plain flat Tsuba. And then I was going to have an engraving here of the tiger kanji, Japanese lettering. So you can kind of see what those different processes might look like. And also have a little border here. If you do a thin border like this with piercing, by the way, the thing to keep in mind is you're probably going to want at least 3 points of contact. You can see I've got one here, and one in the middle. That's because otherwise it's pretty fragile, and even though I hope you don't plan on smashing this against anything on purpose, you don't want to break it by accident either. So yeah, this is kind of give you a good look of the different processes that I was talking about. And again, using the tiger theme throughout the sword. And this is how you can use several different processes all at once, or you could just do the whole thing relief, or pierced, or however you want to do it. Just try to make sure that it matches with your theme. Now this one I'm probably going to redo. You can see it's a little rough and it's not quite finished, but I was not really happy with how this side came out, which is really unfortunate because I was really starting to like this side. But this side I wasn't really liking how just open it is, a little too open, and it looked good on paper, and it looked good when I drew it on the Tsuba itself, but now I'm not liking it so much. So I'm probably going to redo this one. But that brings up another point, is that if there's something that you're not quite happy with, don't be afraid to redo the whole thing. I know it's a lot of work, and you've probably put a lot of work into it, and that like me, you may like one half of it or one piece of it really, and not sure you could do it as well again. But I encourage you to redo it if you don't like something about it, simply because you're going to be that much happier with it when it's all done. And it'll help you with your woodworking skills, redoing stuff. Practice. So that's pretty much it. Like I said, I'm going to redo this, but the overall theme is going to be the same. And then when you're finished with this, you just want to make sure of a couple things. The first is that you want to make the fit here for your tang. You want to make sure that there's enough room in there so it slides onto the tang easily. It doesn't quite fall off, of course, but you want to make it so it slides onto the tang easily, and you don't have to struggle to get it on, because you might even have to take a little bit more away once you've added paint. Because paint is actually, even though it doesn't seem like a lot, it's going to add up more layers, and it's going to make the fit tighter. And I've mentioned that a few times, but just make sure that you leave enough room so that even with paint it'll fit nicely. And then you want to make sure it's all nice and smooth. Probably 220 if you're going to paint it. You may want a little bit smoother grit sandpaper than 220 if you're going to leave it just bare wood. But just keep that in mind, that 220 will allow the wood pores to soak up the paint a little bit easier. And then once you're done with this, and you're all done and the fits are fine and the finish is good, you're going to move on and make yourself another seppa. Now again, make sure that you use the template process that we've discussed, and you make the hole to match the bottom of the Tsuba. Because if you remember, the top seppa is going to have a bigger hole, because the tang gets smaller as we go along because of that taper that we put on it. So a 1/4 inch down the tang is going to have a little bit smaller hole. The distance from here to here, the hole size will change. So you want to make sure you accommodate that by using the bottom of the Tsuba as your hole that you mark on your bottom seppa. And just to give you an idea, of where we're at, we're getting pretty close there to the end. But you can start to see how the sword's going to come together. So next up, we're going to talk about the fuchi, which is like a collar that goes right underneath here. And it's going to be one of your final pieces. This is actually going to be made of 2 pieces of 1/4 inch, but one thing you're going to want to know before you start this is what you're going to use for your Edo, or for your handle rack. And that is because you're going to actually need to know the thickness of what you're using. But we'll talk about it in the next vid.